This week on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
You're my son. You're my gift. God gave you to me. You're the only thing that ever made me happy. Before I had you, I was never happy. You came
Yo, what is
and
up,
you were
everybody?
so...
Welcome back to. We're going to be talking about the new episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 5, Episode 11. Let's get right into it. Alright, so the episode begins with Heather going to Whitney's house. By the way, they really need to update those intro graphics because Heather looks like a completely different person. But anyway, they're getting ready because they want to plan a Girl Scouts camp thing. Okay, that's fun. That's different. So Heather sends the invite. Whitney says she's a little mad at Meredith right now. Remember last week? Give me back my phone! But Heather does want her there, so they're going to invite her. And then Whitney asks Heather, what about Bronwyn? And Heather says, my opinion hasn't changed about her. I think she's sneaky. But I was just like, wait a minute. Didn't Heather just last week say to Bronwyn, let's start over with a new slate? But now she's sitting here saying this? Yeah, Heather cannot be trusted whatsoever. So then we see Meredith. She goes to a gallery. She was very upset after Mary's breakfast at Tiffany's, but she's actually the one that ended up reaching out to Mary so that they could meet up. But Mary is late. Very, very late. Not 5 minutes, 10 or 20. 40. Which, in my opinion, is unacceptable. Sorry, but that's rude and disrespectful. I mean, it is Meredith who wants to meet with her, with Mary, but still. But eventually Mary does get there. It was very awkward. They are like speaking to each other in a very different way than they usually do. Meredith asks, "Is everything okay with you? Like, is everything going okay? Is there anything that's going on?" And Mary's like, "No, I'm okay." Meredith says, "Oh, well, I was just wondering because I thought that it was very uncharacteristic of you the way you acted the other day in your house." And Mary's like, well, what about you? You're the one that decided to storm out of my house. You've never stormed out of other people's houses, but you stormed out of my house." And Meredith says, "Yes, because I no longer felt welcome, and I don't think neither would you." Meredith then says, "Clearly you've been harboring some hostility against me for quite some time." Mary says, "Clearly you have too." Meredith says, "Well, you jumped at to Angie's bandwagon." And Mary says, "You're not always the victim, okay? There's always someone doing something to you, but you're not always the victim." And Meredith says, "Well, we're here. I invited you. I extended the olive branch. You showed up late." And Mary's like, "Okay, Meredith, have a good day." And she leaves. She walks away. And Meredith's like, "Okay, fine. You used me for 3 years. That's clear now." I honestly did not see this feud coming, but it's intense. So the next scene was pretty cool. Angie and Lisa met at the aquarium with their kids. Lisa actually invited her, so that was really nice. So they go into like a snake exhibit to look at some big ass snakes. So then Henry and Electra go to see the other animals themselves, and Angie and Lisa stay there to talk. Lisa tells her that she has created some space because she felt hurt by Angie. She says that she's always given Angie the benefit of the doubt. She's always defended Angie. However, she feels like she hasn't really gotten that in return, especially with the Whitney drama. She kind of wanted Angie to show up for her. She doesn't necessarily want Angie to stop being friends with Whitney, but she just wanted Angie to also be there for her. But that's very interesting that Lisa is saying that because that is exactly what Bronwyn was saying to her about her and Heather. Yet Lisa seemed incapable of understanding Bronwyn, but now she's asking Angie for the exact same thing. Make it make sense. Like, what? But anyway, Angie does apologize and she says that she doesn't want anyone to come between them. And they hug it out. So they seem to be okay for now. It is then the day for camp day. We see Mary. She's very sad about her son, who's not acting accordingly, and she says that she really wants her baby back. But then everyone gets on their way to the camp day event. It was really nice. It was really funny, I should say, seeing Angie and Mary in the car ride because Mary tells Angie, "Well, Meredith got mad at me for being late, but I mean, if she stopped renting in Park City and started renting in Salt Lake City, then maybe I could be there early." And then Angie says, "Well, when she stormed out of your house, she sure did take her parting gift." Which is true, she did. And in the other car, it's Bronwyn, Lisa, and Meredith. And Bronwyn says to them that she's honestly surprised that Whitney and Heather are doing this event together because Whitney hasn't really spoken pretty positively about Heather to Bronwyn. So they all get there. It was like a potluck. They brought food. Meredith tries to light a fire, but she can't. Meredith has to teach her. And then yet again, we have to listen to Brittany and Jared. Ugh. So apparently they're back together now, and Brittany says that she's not going to hold anything against him, or what he did, because she herself was dating 10 other men. And then they start talking about soaking. Heather gives an explanation about what that is. Ugh. Then they begin the activities. The first thing they do is a potato sack race. They have their little teams. They get going. They all sucked, but it was funny. Then they start to eat, and they start talking about some things. Brittany talks about her childhood and when she went to camp when she was a little girl in the church. And then Angie asks her if she's still a practicing Mormon because she's still a little confused as to why the other day at Mary's house, Brittany kind of threw it in Angie's face that she gifted her a bottle of wine, even though in the moment Brittany didn't seem to mind, and Brittany had also sent a message thanking Angie for that bottle of wine. So, like, what is it? And then Mary says, Two Face. That's being Two Face. And Lisa and Meredith are like, no, we don't think that's it. We don't think it's about being Two Face. And Mary says, yes, it is. And we need to go back to having some manners and some, like, etiquette. Like you, Meredith, when you stormed out of my house, that was rude and offensive. Brittany says, you asked her to leave. And Mary's like, I'm not talking to you. Shut up. Meredith, you walked out of my house, Mary says. So Meredith says, you asked me to leave, so I left. And Mary says, no, I didn't. I said, if you're not going to listen, then you can get out of my house. Don't you find that rude? And Meredith's like, no. Mary's like, okay, okay. So if you don't want to address it and you don't want to, like, own up to it, then whatever, we're just going to leave it there. Whitney then says, well, Meredith holds grudges just like Lisa. So Lisa is like, Whitney, don't go there. Don't talk about me because I heard that you talk about Heather. Right, Bronwyn? So Bronwyn's like, yeah, Whitney, like, you have told me. Like, I found it interesting that you and Heather were hosting this because you have told me things about Heather. Like, the fact that she doesn't have your back because she would rather be friends with Lisa. And Whitney's like, oh, well, that happened at the time, but we've moved on now. Angie then says, well, you talked about Lisa, Bronwyn. And Bronwyn's like, no, I didn't. You told me when we went on that walk that it was Lisa who likes to F people over. Angie said, I never said that. You need to borrow Meredith's hearing aids because you need them. Meredith was offended by that. But Bronwyn says, again, when I was in that walk with you, Angie, and Whitney, you both talked about Lisa. I didn't. And Whitney was the one that said that Lisa likes to hurt others to make herself feel better. So Lisa's like, no, that's not true. Whitney, why would you even say that? And then Mary says, yes, it is true. It is true, Lisa. You're just a game. You're the fakest person I've ever met in my life. But then Mary starts, I like where she was going, but then she kind of got off track talking about outfits and fashion and who wore what first. Like, okay, that's a little relevant. But Lisa and Mary, they start to go back and forth and back. They were really mad at each other. And Mary says, you can't shut me up, you dingbat. Clearly, Mary is feeling a little bit more sensitive to these petty arguments because of what she's going through. But, I don't want to, like, obviously I can't put that against other women because they truly don't know what's going on. So then Meredith tells Angie that it is very disrespectful to make fun of her hearing disability. Then Bronwyn says that everyone's always coming at her. And then Angie says everyone needs to shut the F up and let Lisa and Mary talk because y'all have nothing to do with this. So Meredith gets up. She says, fine, I'll shut the F up. I'll leave. Bronwyn then says this is some BS and she leaves. This was the most chaotic camp day I've ever seen. It was just so much stuff going on at the same time. And that's how it ends. Then right away the next day, Meredith has a Shabbat dinner. I think that's how you say it. She invited all the ladies with their husbands or boyfriends. In the case of Brittany, she brought Jared Osman there with her. Heather is yet again talking about soaking to Meredith's children. I have learned too much about soaking tonight. A lot that I did not need to know, okay? But Heather does meet Todd for the first time. The only ones that were not there were Angie, Whitney, and Mary. So Meredith does her religion, her tradition, and then they're all eating and they're all just talking. Lisa says that when she, because they're talking about like Meredith being Jewish, and they say that John Barlow is as well. Lisa found this out because when John did his DNA, Lisa was looking into who his birth family was because he is adopted. Then Todd just randomly says that when he met Bronwyn, he did a full background check on her. And everybody thought that was kind of crazy, but let me tell you, in today's day and age, I ain't really mad at that because you gotta make sure you know who people are, okay? Then they talk about the camping trip, and Bronwyn says that she was not lying when she said the things Whitney had said to her, but she admits that she can be a snarky C word. She threw the C word, and Todd says, "Don't say that." I'm gonna have to agree with Todd on that. Don't say that word in the dinner table. Yeah, don't say that. Meredith then says that she is deeply upset with where she is with Mary. She says that she feels this like it's very odd because Mary has never been like this, and she really wonders if she has a bigger problem. And it's Brittany, out of all people, that says maybe we should give Mary some grace. Maybe she does have something wrong with her. So then the next day, the last scene is a very serious scene in Mary's house where she goes up to Robert's room. She needs to talk to him. She asks him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I took a Xanax to chill out and I'm going to take an Adderall later." And Mary says, "Do you not see that this is a problem? Like, are you unhappy?" He was like, I think he was probably on substances. He's probably high because he was kind of slurring his words. He says that life for him is like unseasoned chicken. And that when he gets high, that's when the seasoning comes in. And then she asks him, when did he start doing this? And he says, when he was 16. Whoa, 16. So that means he's been doing this for like 4 to 5 years. What is surprising though is that he is being very, very honest with her. Like he's telling her when he did it, where he tried it, all the different types that he did. And I mean, it's like hardcore stuff, you know? Um, but he's saying all this to Mary, and then Mary starts to cry. She says that she won't judge him, but she won't support him, obviously. She says that he needs to accept that this is a problem, and she tells him that he needs to realize how blessed he is to wake up every day. And then that's when he was being very, very vulnerable and says to her that he wanted to die one day. Damn. Mary says, "Do you not understand that I would not be okay if you were not here?" And then he says, "Oh, this was tough to watch. It was really, really upsetting." He says to her, "You're the only reason that I didn't myself." Wow, that's very, very sad. She tells him that she loves him so much that he is her everything and that he needs to change his behavior. And that's where the episode ended. For sure, a very, very real, raw, emotional, vulnerable, just true scene of a real problem that's a very serious problem. And I think it touched a lot of people's hearts for sure. If I'm not mistaken, I heard that he was on a rehab and that he was doing well. I hope that's the case. I also hope that they can get some therapy with not just him, but with Mary. Because the thing is, when you start doing this at 16, you need to figure out the root cause of why you started doing it in the first place. You get what I'm saying? Like, no one just does it out of nowhere. You know, there is something. And what he said about not wanting to be alive, that stems from something. So I hope that as a family, they can, you know, realize what happened. What were the shortcomings that made him feel like this? Because I kept wondering also, where's his father in all of this? You know, we haven't seen him. So I wonder that too. But really sad. Hope he gets better. No one should ever, you know, be doing those things or feeling like that. Just horrible, horrible, horrible. But anyway, you guys, what were your thoughts about this episode? Please tell me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.